Hello, everybody. Dr. Lonnie Stewart here from the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. Are you a physical therapy student about to start studying for the National Physical Therapy Examination? Or maybe you're a professor, a program director, or clinical instructor who teaches DPT students preparing for the NPTE? Either way, we would recommend checking out our sponsor, NPTE Final Frontier, and the community they've built around preparing for and succeeding on the NPTE. That exam and the preparation that goes along with it can be long, tedious, difficult, and stress inducing, but it doesn't have to be. NPTE Final Frontier has the tactics and resources to help address all of the usual barriers. They even have scholarships to help with NPTE study courses, FSBPT registration fees, and even research opportunities. And if that's not enough, they're even donating to the very first annual HET Podcast Scholarship to be awarded at the end of every year. Go to npteff.com for all of the details and use code HET for 10% off all purchases. Links to both the NPTE Final Frontier and their scholarship options are available in the show notes. And now, let's get ready to learn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Teach Me Something Tuesday episode of the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. F. Scott Feil, and fresh off of the APTA CSM conference, today's topic is all about network. This works on every level from student to professor to clinician to general human being. You just need to know how to network. I've told my students several times that the best time to network was 5, 10 years ago. But the second best time to network, if you haven't started doing that, is right. You've got to start building and growing your network because you never know when you're going to need that network for things, right? You never know if, you may be looking for a job, or you may have a job to offer, or you have a project you're working on, or one of your strengths is A, and you need somebody with strength in B, and you can turn to your network to find that strength. A lot of times when projects are done or partnerships are started, it's because one person has strengths in A, B, and C, but weaknesses in D, E, and F, and the other person has strengths in D, E, F, but maybe weaknesses in A, B, C. So it's leveling that out and balancing those strengths and weaknesses that can come from your network to help. The best ways that I have found to network are: one, start with your inner circle, right? Friends, family, people that you value and trust. You're always going to have them as your starting. You can ask them who they may know. If you're looking for something in particular, or a skill set, or a certain person to fill some sort of role. But then if your inner circle doesn't necessarily have that person, or know somebody with those skill sets, now you can start to expand and look out into a little larger. The good news is social media and the internet have made social networking much, much easier. Start to follow people on social media that are doing the same things you want to do, that are interested in the same things that you're interested, that bring you value, that promote positivity, and that really push the needle forward and get you thinking differently. You don't want to be stuck in an echo chamber. That network gets kind of boring pretty quickly, and nothing really ever gets done, and the needle just doesn't get moved at all. The next way that you can kind of start to network is to just talk to people that you work with, your coworker or students, right? Classmates. Talk to them. Who do they know? What are their interests? Who do they follow? What are people they work with? What topics are they interested in? What are they into? Because again, you just never know when you may need somebody from your network to help you with something in a topic you're not very strong in. Or when you may have an opportunity come up and you say, you know what, I know the exact person for this. Conferences, speaking of APTA CSM, conferences are an amazing way to network. The amount of people that I've met through conferences and the opportunities that I've had to present and maybe even get jobs at certain points through my network that I've met at conferences has been outstanding. So if you're ever on the fence about it, if you can make it happen, I would strongly recommend going to a conference because, I mean, CSM had approximately 14,000 people there. So that's a lot of people that you can try to network with. Obviously, you're not going to get to them all, but, shaking hands and introducing yourself and putting yourself out there and talking to speakers and, just getting to know what their interests are and dive a little bit deeper and put a name to a face and make those connections those things can turn into relationships, and those relationships can turn into long-term networks. Right. So again, my recommendation is to put yourself out there, keep putting yourself out there. Don't ever be afraid to share your story. A lot of times your story can help with teaching other people that, hey, this could work. If I'm able to do it, you can do it. Right. And by putting your story out there, by sharing your story, by making connections, by finding commonalities, those are the ways that you're going to build and grow your network, which can eventually then lead to your dream 100 list, which is, a way to look at 100 different people who can help you or your agenda and push things forward and move the needle forward and make an impact. And if, you have a top five of white whales that you'd like to meet at some point or work with or network with, and you don't quite know them yet, it's kind of like a 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing, right? Where you're trying to meet people that know them or that are associated with them or that work with them, and then people that know and are associated and work with those people. And eventually the network becomes, big enough where you know somebody that's loosely attached to somebody who can get you to those white whales. But it takes time, it takes effort. Like I said, you got to smile a lot, talk a lot, listen a lot. You've got to be more interested in what the person is saying and what they're all about than be interesting and talk. So just sitting there and listening to people and their stories and again, making true connections. I found that's really helped with networking and really growing a network. Our podcast has been tremendous in growing my network. My network has probably grown tenfold just because of the guests we've had on the podcast and who they know. We always ask, anybody you think we should have on the podcast, anybody that you know or that make a great story or is doing something amazing. That's been really helpful with growing our network. And again, the amazing people who met through the podcast and the guests we've had have just been absolutely outstanding. So get to networking. I promise you it'll pay off in the long run, and we'll see you on the next one. Well, I hope that episode was entertaining as much as it was informational and educational. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, we ask you to please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. And please share out the episodes to those who you feel may be able to benefit from them. We also urge you to follow us on all social media platforms at HET Podcast and let us know what topics or experts you would like to hear from in future episodes. And just as a reminder, none of the information on today's show should be considered medical advice. It's simply infotainment or edutainment to help educate our audience. For medical advice, we always advise you to reach out to your preferred medical professionals, and we'll see you on the next show.